And speaking of put some respect on your name, we got to talk about the tweet. What's up, people? I'm Pavlech, the host of Togethxr and also the moderator for the Next Chapter Roundtable. We're going to be celebrating the WNBA's 25th season and talking about how activism has played such a large role in the W and how the WNBA is taking over. First up, I got my homegirl, Arike Ogunbowale, one of the best guards in the league and the star of the Dallas Wings. And I also have Chelsea Miller, the co-founder and the lead organizer of Freedom March NYC. Arike, what are your thoughts and feelings towards the W's 25th season, and what have you seen so far?
It's been amazing. I mean, we've had 6 buzzer beater games. You know, I see our games on TV, you know, every night that there's a WNBA game, I can see it on national television. I see a lot of talk on social media about the WNBA, men, women, kids, boys, girls, everybody's really tuning in, and it's just been really exciting basketball. And obviously it's a milestone, you know, how it's developed and, you know, how good players are getting and how we're still, you know, giving honor to the people who created the league. It's just been a really fun year so far. And
look, everybody knows you for all the buzzer beaters. You make it happen all the time. And when you were a kid, how have you seen the league change from when you were younger to now?
I think a lot more players are getting a lot more flair. Like, obviously, you know, the players back then, they were amazing. Like, you know, the ones who created this league, you know, the main players, they were amazing. But any given night, anybody from any team could drop 30. Like, there's so many skilled players in the league right now. Some, like, a lot of people, you don't even know their names. Like, even before I got to the league, there was people dropping 20, 30. I never heard of them. So it's just, the talent level is really, really high right now, and there's only 144 spots.
Yeah, and you said more players playing with flair and people talking about the game on social media. We also know President Barack Obama was a huge fan of the game. And Chelsea, this is where I want to bring you in just to talk about your time working at the White House, because out of all of us, you probably know him best.
Yeah, absolutely. So my time working at the White House, I was one of the youngest interns in 2016, specifically working on urban economic opportunity and criminal justice reform. And so that looked like a lot of in the weeds work, especially towards the last days of the administration, focused on what does it look like to really think about community, what does it look like to really think about the policies of the Obama administration and having them live post-administration, right? And so a lot of that looked like the My Brother's Keeper initiative, a lot of that looked like issues around the 21st century task force and policing, and what does that look like to really reimagine. But definitely, you know, the Obama administration has always been really big on what does it look like to create spaces of inclusivity, and that's something that I took with me in my own activism, but even broadened that.
That's so awesome, Chelsea, and I know you've really made a name for yourself and have been telling people to put some respect on your name. And speaking of put some respect on your name, we got to talk about the tweet, May 25th, from you, Arike, that you said to the journalists, announcers, fans, bystanders. Can you describe the importance for them to get your name correctly? Because to me, Arike Ogunbowale, one of the best players in the league, one of the greatest players that will go down in history in sports, and people not being able to fully pronounce your name is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, even for fans, obviously, you know, you can let it slide. This is not their job. But for people who, you know, you go to work every day and it's your job to pronounce people's names and to say people's names and do that, like, then you need to take that serious. That's like me showing up to a basketball game and not doing what I have to do. Like, if that's what, you know, you're paid for, you need to work at that. And so they apologized for that, though. So I really appreciate that. You know, New York, like, president, they called and said, you know, we got on them and we're sorry about that. But just even around the league in general, there's a lot of players, African players and other players that obviously their names are a little difficult to say, but that, you know, that's no excuse. If that's their name, then, you know, you need to say it correctly because that's disrespectful. So, you know, they need to get better at that. And, you know, the people who have to pronounce the names definitely need to practice and put in time because, you know, the players, myself and the other players that, you know, this happens to, we work hard and we've worked hard to create a name for ourselves. So we want that, you know, spoken correctly.
Yeah, I would also say just ask. I mean, like, it doesn't hurt to do that, you know, and I think that's really important. Like, when people take liberties, especially with your name, I think that there's so much power, which, you know, like, correct me because I think that's important. I have a lot of friends, you know, that are from Ghana, that are from West Africa. You know, I'm Jamaican. And so for the most part, The names of my family are pretty basic. And if you know the history of that, then you know why, because we inherited the names of masters, right? That's what happens. But specifically when it comes to, right, the African diaspora, like it is so large and there are so many different names that, yeah, put respect on people's names and do your research and ask people, like before the cameras roll, know the names, and before people pull up, know their names, and like put some respect on that, because I guarantee you that there are a lot of European names that are just as complicated, but somehow we managed to pronounce them correctly. Sorry, I'm an activist, y'all.
Obviously, both of you are still very young and very successful in your careers, but Chelsea, I want to talk about you. Was there ever a time where you felt either discredited or discounted because of your age?
So this is really interesting. I get this question a lot. And what I will say is that a lot of people ask, you know, what does it look like being a young person, a Black woman, right? A young Black woman leading this movement. And I always try to remind people that Black women have always been a part of movements. Black women have always been a part of carrying movements. When you talk about the civil rights movement and the work of Shirley Chisholm to Ida B. Wells, and even the women's rights movement and the work that Ida B. Wells did in that. When you talk about LGBTQ plus issues, right? And the way that Marsha P. Johnson, like Stonewall was a riot, you know? And so all of these different things in which Black women have always historically shown up. The question is whether or not we've been receiving our credit, whether or not our voices have been amplified. And if you look through history, that hasn't been the case. And so what I think we're seeing is that a lot of young Black women are just showing up and taking up space unapologetically. And a lot of that has to do with social media and the way that we can use that to tell our own stories, to show our own narratives and build community that way. And so we don't need permission from anyone now to get the history books right, because we're writing them ourselves.
That's beautiful. And it's great too, because especially for someone like you, Arike, and we talk about the WNBA really always being at the forefront of every movement, of every change. And for you, Arike, what were some things that you saw the WNBA do this past season to really help the movement, whether that be sacrifices or actual tangible changes?
I mean, you know, the first thing we wore Breonna Taylor's name on the back of our jersey. We kind of been silenced a lot in what was going on in Breonna Taylor's story. So huge, and it definitely wasn't getting talked about enough. You know, the officers weren't being held accountable. So we really dedicated the whole season to her. Obviously other Black women too, but definitely to her. Every single player had Breonna Taylor on their jersey for the whole entire season. Natasha Cloud, she's a big player. They just won a championship recently, a couple years ago, and she decided to sit out and, you know, advocate for social justice and just be out there. Renee Montgomery, you know, she sat out too and was a big advocate as well. Atlanta Dream, they worked with Stacey Abrams to flip the Senate. You know, we wore Vote Warnock shirts for a couple games. You know, we gave them to all the players, and after that, he was able to raise $183,000, and gain 3,500 new donors. So that just shows you that it wasn't just talk, like action was actually happened and changed, you know, for the better. And it wasn't just a couple players, you know, like some leagues, some people, like especially NBA, like Jaylen, you'll see a couple names like Jaylen Brown or Kyrie, but here it was every single person. We had, you know, league meetings so that it wasn't just a couple people making decisions. Like we had a meeting with all 144 players, and we were like, do we want to sit out this game? Do we want to make this decision? Do we want to do this? And we didn't make any decisions until everybody was on the same page. So, you know, it wasn't just, you know, a couple players, it was the whole WNBA. All players were, you know, for everything that we were doing, everything that was out there, it was agreed upon from everybody. So it was just unity in the league, and that just showed, you know, us being strong, us sticking together and coming together for one cause. That, you know, that really helped us make a change.
It started at the WNBA, but then you saw it trickle over to the NBA, and then we saw it get into baseball and soccer and
even high schoolers. Like, and I think with the WNBA, us being women, like I saw a lot of like high school teams, girls getting in trouble for, you know, wearing Black Lives Matter shirts and speaking out. And I feel like years ago you wouldn't have seen, you know, teenagers just feel the confidence enough to be able to talk about things like that. Especially, like a lot of those girls were at PWIs and just actually still wearing that stuff, getting in trouble, having to sit out, but they weren't afraid. And I definitely think, you know, they look to the WNBA, you know, to us young women, and, you know, if they can do it, then I can speak out too. We set the standard for, you know, young kids, and even, like you said, other professional leagues, NBA, all of them, they kind of followed, you know, in our past. So definitely blessed that I was able to be a part of that. I have a lot of followers, people, young kids, older kids, white, Black, like it's just a lot. So being able to put, you know, important things on social media and just talk about it and share it. And if people want to comment, just having conversations with them about it. Like, that's the best way, honestly, right now to be able to do things, especially with COVID.
For us, especially in organizing, social media became a tool for us to be able to share information, give people the resources they need to create change in their communities. There's so many things that we did this past summer. We were on the front lines that went viral through social media, and that helped in amplifying and spreading the message. But at the same time, I always tell people that it doesn't end with social media. Like, that should just be literally a building block to everything else that you're doing in your community anyways.
And Chelsea, you say that Black women are at the forefront of every movement, but a lot of time don't get the credit. So from what you've seen in sports and the WNBA, how do you think it's helped with more and more athletes speaking out and really trying to make a change?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we've seen a lot of things this past year. I think first and foremost, we've seen the importance of the agency of athletes and the importance for them to be able to use their voices, right, to shed light on issues and understanding the power that comes with that. I would say there's also this other piece of it that looks like, to the point that Arike made, what does it look like to have a league that supports the voices of athletes, right? I remember a few years ago, there was a statement that was made that told one of the athletes, and I'm sure y'all probably know, shut up and dribble, right? This idea that your ideas and your thoughts as a Black person, the only time that you should be speaking and the only time that you should show up is when it relates to the sport, when in fact, it's like, no, people are still people. And so I think it's really important when athletes are able to use their platform to do that, but also to not be reprimanded for that, right? Like, we saw what happened to Colin Kaepernick and the fact that he was blackballed. We saw what happened to even Naomi Osaka in standing up for her mental health and the way that she was targeted because of that. And so similarly, when I think about Black women athletes and being able to show up unapologetically, I think that we have to continue to show up across the movement, right? For Black women across so many different spaces who are taking a stand, because it's not easy, and also hold different leagues accountable for what it looks like to do that as well.
Arike, when it comes to progress and tangible change, where do you think the movement would be without the WNBA?
Honestly, I mean, just in this past bubble, I think we made so much noise and helped push so many changes, you know, going on in the world, and just bringing, you know, light to different situations, like especially the women. You know, we were kind of getting overlooked in the Black Lives Matter movement. Obviously, you know, with the men too, those were serious situations, but, you know, same thing were happening to Black women too, and that wasn't really spoken about. And, you know, we brought those stories to light every single night, pushed the movement. So, and I'm blessed to be a part of the league, a league that cares so much about us. Obviously, we're not just players, they care about us as people, and we know majority of the league is Black women, and us being Black women, I think the league supports us so much, and, you know, they're behind us with whatever we want to do, whatever decisions we want to make. They're behind us. Like in the bubble, we decided not to play a game, and, you know, they're behind that 100%.
How do you think the WNBA and its players can continue to keep the movement going and moving forward?
Just keep talking about it, keep doing what we've been doing. I mean, I don't even think we need to change, because I feel like we made such big changes by how we were moving and how we came together and how we, you know, strategically did everything, that we just need to keep it doing the exact same thing. And, you know, hopefully there aren't, you know, big tragic incidents that happened like, you know, last year. But if there are, I think the WNBA will be ready for whatever we have to do, and we're willing to do whatever we have to do, whatever cause we have to get behind to make positive change, you know, for the community and for the world.
Just to go back to you again, Chelsea, too, what advice would you give Gen Zers who want to become leaders of social change?
I would say to do it afraid. That's something that I talk about all the time. When I went out to the front lines last year, that was when, you know, I was quarantining just like everyone else, but still we went out because we knew that there was an importance of centering the narrative in this country that wasn't about the looting and the rioting, but was about people's lives. And it was so important that when we talk about our generation and this idea of the fact that the civil rights movement occurred in the 60s, no, the civil rights movement never ended. It's just taken on different forms. And so as young people, it's our responsibility to carry the torch and to carry the work of the next generation. And we always say that, yes, we are doing it for this generation, but also think about 7 generations forward.
That's beautiful. And Arike, too, even for the young athletes coming up, and especially because, you know, we saw this past year, obviously, Renee Montgomery sat out, Natasha Cloud sat out, just because they really felt like they had another calling. But for any young player that really either wants to get involved or also speak up, what advice would you have for them?
do it. I mean, this is a time right now where, you know, people are really backing people who speak up and, you know, speak their mind and support a cause. So just don't be afraid. Like, nobody's gonna, you know, criticize you or do anything like that. You'll probably gain more supporters by, you know, speaking your mind and supporting what you believe in. So just do it, and, you know, just use your platform. Like we said, social media is such a big thing, and just use your platform however you want to use it, use it. So I'll just say speak up and just don't be afraid of anything, because right now I think, you know, that bold and, you know, being out there and just speaking and voicing your opinion, that's really, you know, what's going on right now. So just do it.
Arike and Chelsea, I just want to thank you guys for coming on to this Next Chapter Roundtable. Y'all two together, I'm telling you, changing the world, taking over the world, and it doesn't matter how old you are, anyone can make a change.
Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully I see you guys soon at a WNBA game.
Definitely, sounds good. I can't wait to pull up.